All right, we are live. Just going to wait for people to join. I've got the questions loaded up. I've got 7 questions, but people keep sending more. I'll keep checking the email responses and the other message groups. So welcome, everybody. Is the volume okay? Everybody can hear? You can chat in the chat, obviously. So today we're going to be answering some questions. Oh, hey, Vicky, you are always on here. You're like my favorite fan. We're going to be answering some questions. I've got a bunch of them that people sent. Hey, Vicky, is the audio seem okay? I'm always concerned that this mic may or may not be working, but it looks like it probably is since you're commenting. So everyone say hi if you're here. We've still got about a minute to go before we begin. Yeah, so just post your questions. We're almost at 8:30. Okay, good. Audio sounds like it's working. Perfect. Yeah, and there is a chat window if anyone wants to post questions. I've got a bunch, but I'll answer the live ones first, obviously. So we're just kind of waiting. I don't know who's all on here. It says there's some people on, but feel free to raise your hand or just post a question. Just waiting to get started here. Give people a chance to jump in. So Diane sent some questions. And we'll probably start with Diane's questions. Now, I don't know if she's on. Let me check if she posted any more questions in the emails. Okay, no, she did not. She sent 2 questions. So we can start with those. All right, so it is 8:30, so I guess we'll start. Oh, hey, Vicky. Sorry to hear that. How to order. That's actually super easy. You can go on Amazon and order one, or you could go to drallo.net/book. Oh, it kind of didn't let me type it that way. That'll give you the digital version. Oh, it keeps saying Dr. Allo. I don't know. Well, anyways, that's the link there. drallo.net/book. That'll give you the audio, a digital version, and like tons and tons of bonuses. Hopefully you're having a good time in Georgia. So anyways, I think we'll start with Diane's questions since she submitted her questions. If you guys have live questions that you want to ask, or if Diane, if you're on here, if you want to post follow-ups. The first one says, from Diane, I was walking daily, but sorry, and I'm looking off to the side because I'm reading the questions. I was walking daily, but now I've developed plantar fasciitis, still walking, but less. What are the best exercises if I have feet problems and herniated discs? I fear that I cannot lift weights. I was doing another exercise which irritated my back, twisting floor work for my core. I know you are not my doctor, but what would be a good low impact exercise? My back doctor said to do Athlean X program, core work for back strength, but it is really hard to do. I'm 58 and I have a desk job, but we always walked in the evening previously for 30 minutes. So I guess, Diane, my first question to you would be, what is the goal of your walking? Are you just walking because it's a fun activity that you enjoy, or because you want to do some kind of activity, or are you trying to walk for weight loss? So if your goal is to walk for weight loss, you honestly don't have to walk. It's definitely very good for you, and it loosens up your joints, and it helps your health in a lot of different ways. But it's definitely don't use it as a way to somehow lose weight. The Athlean X programs are good, but if there's a lot of twisting, it might be hard on your back. What I would recommend is seeing a physical therapist that specializes in lower back and especially discs. There is a machine at most gyms called a reverse hyper. It's kind of like you lay on a bench and you put your legs up. Like, let's say this is a bench and these are your feet dangling. There's a little bit of weight here or no weight at all. And you just, flex your feet up and down. You just kind of go like this. That is one exercise that's really, really good for backs. Another way to do it is if you have one of those like Roman chairs or what they call it, where your legs are down here. This is your head and your torso, and you extend your head this way, but you're kind of on an angle. So you're kind of lifting up this way. Those exercises would work. Definitely check with your doctor, because obviously I'm not your doctor. But definitely do that. Continue. Oh, hey, Pesh. Continue walking. Obviously, we're just answering the question that Diane asked about walking and herniated discs. She said she used to walk more, but now has plantar fasciitis. The plantar fasciitis, the physical therapist that helps you with your back probably has some things that you can also do for plantar fasciitis. I know that is very, very painful and annoying, but there are definitely ways to work around that. There's some, there's exercise you can do. You can roll your foot on a ball kind of roller, like a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball or like a street hockey ball. You could freeze some, like a water bottle, and then just roll it on the ground, your foot over it. Those are some things you can do. Vicky says, and I'll answer the live questions first, obviously. Vicky says, I moved back home to Georgia. I read your book. Everyone is asking how to order. Okay, yeah, so that you can go on Amazon, just type in Actual Weight Loss Book, and it should be there. If you actually go to actualweightlossbook.com, that'll take you straight to the Amazon link, actualweightlossbook.com. Pesh says, let's see, Vicky again, thank you for being a great doctor. I'll miss you and your brother, but I'll see you on lives. Yeah, you can see me on lives. Obviously, I'm always available. You can shoot me an email. Oh, Diane's on. Okay, cool. So Diane, you have a second question too, which I wanted to get to. The second question is, I was doing intermittent fasting, 16-hour fast, and eating less or just twice a day, and eating within a 6 to 7 hour window, spinach and berry smoothies, and more veggies at dinner with lower protein, but hit a plateau in weight loss. Actually, you're asking the same exact question that someone else asked. Somebody else asked, and I'll finish your question. Someone else says, I've been doing keto. I lost 12 to 13 pounds in the first 2 months, but no longer losing. I've been at a plateau for 3 months. So I'll finish your question, Diane, and then we'll probably combine those two. This is Diane again, I'd lost 27 pounds, but gained back 5. So congratulations, gaining back 5 is not bad. You're at 22 pounds down. Fluctuating here and there is okay. And we'll get into how you can get out of that. Since I was not walking as much and began eating carbs again, my nutritionist suggested. So you've gained back 5 pounds since you're not walking as much. And this is the same person, obviously, for the rest of you that asked about the plantar fasciitis and can't walk as much with the discs. Since I was not walking as much and began eating carbs again, as my nutritionist suggested. She was against intermittent fasting. I'm trying to figure out the best eating habits. I do better with less protein, I'm finding. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you don't want to eat more protein. More power to you. It's totally fine. The only reason we recommend more protein is usually to protect lean body mass. When you go into a calorie deficit, you do lose muscle as well. Not as much. You obviously you lose more fat depending on how much you have. But if you're working out and lifting weights and eating enough protein, that sends a signal to your body to hang on to lean mass. You don't want to lose your muscles. But I don't know, you said you're 58 years old. That may or may not be a goal for you, but if you want to retain muscle, and I think you should, most of my patients are over 40, over 50, 60, 70, 80 even. The more muscle you have and the more strength you have, the more functional you are. Like, getting out of a chair, reaching up into a cupboard and putting something, above your head. Those kind of things that require strength also improve your functionality and your quality of life. So we want to improve your quality of life indicators. That's one of them, having strength. So there are lots of exercises that you can do, and I highly recommend, and I don't know where you live, Diane. Maybe if you post where you live, I can give you some suggestions, but definitely find a physical therapist that specializes in these kind of things just to get your strength up. If you notice, most physical therapy is strength training, whether you're using a band or some dumbbells or some weights. But strength training usually offsets these, what are they called? Like immobility or not, when your body's out of balance, you might have a hip that's a little too high or a rib out of place, but those are all kinds of things that you can work on with a physical therapist or a strength training coach. Pennsylvania. So I'm not sure where in Pennsylvania, but I don't know any people in Pennsylvania. I thought you were maybe a little more local, or like in Chicago. I go to Chicago a lot. Okay, so back to your other question now. Yeah, hip. Diane says, yes, I have a hip issue also. So a lot of times you'll find that those kind of problems start at your feet. You probably have a foot problem, which led to a knee problem, and a hip problem, which threw your back off balance. And that's what ultimately led to the aches and pains. And you did say you have a plantar fasciitis. So that may be something with the feet. Sometimes certain orthotics can help. Definitely try that, have them custom made. And it usually starts down at the bottom and goes up. So that sounds like what you've been having. Now about the keto diet. So two different questions about keto. Most people kind of, the two questions that we have are, well, yours is more intermittent fasting. I'm sorry. So Diane's question is about intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting can work. And here's the thing. I recently posted a video called I'm trying this new thing and I'm losing weight. So whatever that new thing is, whether it's a new exercise program or a new diet, or you've cut out carbs or you're doing yoga or whatever it is, usually when people start a new thing, you will lose some weight initially. Most of the long-term studies and most of the short-term studies we've done on weight loss, most people, when they start something new, they do lose weight. A recent study was just published, and I'll probably be doing a video about this soon. There was a recent study published on men and women. They took 3,000 men and women, and they had them jog 5 miles a day, 5 days a week for 2 years. So 25 miles per week for 2 years. And they were going to see what kind of effect this has on their body composition, weight loss, and whatnot. So after 2 years, and they didn't control calories, they didn't do anything. They just said, your job here, wear this fitness tracker. We're going to be tracking you by GPS. We want you to run or jog 5 miles a day. So these people did this. The men in the study, after 2 years of running 25 miles a week, lost 5 pounds. The women in the study lost 0 pounds. So that's why I was asking you earlier, Diane, if you're walking as a means to an end, or are you walking for enjoyment? You should walk for enjoyment. It's an activity. It improves your health. It improves almost all of your cardiovascular risk factors, your blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, insulin resistance, all that stuff. Back to intermittent fasting. So when you try a new diet, regardless of what it is, there's always an initial bump. The reason for that is the first 2 weeks, your body dehydrates, you lose glycogen because you're in a calorie deficit. So normally intermittent fasting, let's say you're eating in this 6 to 7 hour window that you eat, let's say it's 1 p.m. to 8 p.m., something like that is what most people do. Some people shrink it and do 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. or 5 p.m., something like that. But let's say that's what you're doing. You've suddenly reduced your caloric intake. You've gone from eating, and I'm just saying, let's say you're eating 2,800 calories a day. Now you're eating 1,800, like a huge calorie deficit. So you'll lose a lot of weight up front. And that's what we find with almost any new diet, regardless of what the diet is. You'll lose a lot of weight up front. And when you restrict calories, you lose glycogen. The muscles and the organs that store glycogen, it's a form of sugar. You start losing glycogen, and water follows. Water follows glycogen. So you dehydrate slightly. So that's why a lot of people lose weight. Within the first 2 weeks of almost any diet, people could lose anywhere from 8 up to 15, maybe 16 pounds because they've started a new thing or a new diet. So that's why that happens. Now, you said you lost 27 pounds, but you've gained 5 back because you're not walking as much and began eating carbs again. So my guess is it's not really the walking, but it's more that you've started eating more calories. And it doesn't really matter if they're carbs or protein or fat. Any caloric surplus will put weight back on. So your nutritionist was against intermittent fasting. That's what it says in your question. Which is fine. I'm not against it. If you want to do it, you can do it. But just know that intermittent fasting doesn't possess any magical powers. A lot of people talk about intermittent fasting and their diet. Their diets are almost a religion. I do keto and I only do keto. I don't do anything else. Or I do intermittent fasting. I do paleo, or I do Whole30. There's all these people have all these diets. I'm very diet agnostic. If this works for you, have at it. All that matters is that you found a way to reduce your caloric intake. So that's going to be the key. You got to get your calories down. So if intermittent fasting worked for you in the beginning, the usual reason that happens is because you've reduced your caloric intake, whether you know it or not. If you're tracking with an app, which is what I recommend usually for people to do, is to track with an app. If you're tracking with an app, then we know exactly how many calories you're eating, so that if you do decide to go back to eating all throughout the day or eating carbs again, you will not put the weight back on and you can continue to lose weight. Usually, initially, people lose weight quickly because it's a new thing and it's a new calorie deficit. But if you're not actually tracking, you don't really know how much you're eating, and your body has all these adaptive mechanisms. It'll suppress satiety signaling, increase hunger signaling, and your weight will go back up. So that's usually what happens. Diane, since you're live, let's see, walking for energy. And because my numbers, cholesterol is high. So walking for energy and enjoyment is perfectly fine. It's good for your joints. It actually could increase your bone mineral density. You did say you're 58. Your cholesterol is high. It kind of depends on how high and what you mean by high. If your cholesterol is just, if it depends on how high and what other risk factors you have. This may work. Cutting out saturated fat works better for that. But walking and exercise, they've done long-term studies on people where they had them cut out saturated fat and walk like tons and tons of times a week. I forget the exact number. The best studies show about a 16% drop in cholesterol with lifestyle changes. Most people drop it about 10%. So if you're at 220, you'll drop it 22 points. If you're at 180, it'll drop 18 points. Same thing with the LDL. It's about a 10 up to maybe 16% drop. So if your cholesterol is really, really high and you have risk factors, you may want to actually get on cholesterol medication or get really super strict about saturated fat. I'll do the live questions first. Pesh says, I lost weight very quickly first initially. Now it's about 5 pounds a month. If that, I choose to focus on body composition rather than the number on the scale every morning. That is actually the best way to do it. Most people, depending on how overweight you are, will definitely lose the most amount of weight that first month. Then the month number 2 will be number 2. You'll lose the second most amount of weight, month 2. The third amount of weight, month 3. And it gets harder and harder to lose weight the closer you get to your ideal body weight. Imagine, let's say you're like a 250-pound person. The first month you lose 25 pounds. The next month it's like 15, then like maybe 5, then another 3. The closer you get to, like, let's say 180 or like 160, whatever you're trying to get to, the harder it is to shed those extra pounds because you don't have that much more to lose. That's one part of it. Second of all, your body's trying to compensate. It's saying, oh my God, we've lost all this weight. This isn't normal. I need to increase hunger signaling and reduce satiety signaling. All that stuff kicks in. It's your body's protective mechanism, so it doesn't think that you are starving or there's a famine or whatever it is. Our like ancestral genes kind of kick in. Pesh says, I like how clothes fit me better and how it's easier to move. I restarted walking now that the weather is better, and I'm delighted that I can go further. I use these wins as my motivation. Yeah, there's a lot of what we call them non-scale victories or non-scale wins. You don't always have to judge yourself by the number on the scale. If you're a 200-pound person, you can love yourself the same and be just as happy as a 120-pound person, as long as you like what you're seeing. You're walking more, you can play with the kids, you can go up and down stairs without getting short of breath. All these things, they're non-scale wins. Clothes fitting better is a non-scale win. Using an extra hole in your belt buckle, being able to wear that hat or whatever it might be. All of these are non-scale wins that you can use as motivation. I always tell people that motivation can be fleeting. One day you're super, super motivated and excited, but then later you're not as much anymore. So one thing that I like to stress to people is that develop habits and discipline. Figure out, get your discipline straightened out, because motivation comes and goes. One day I'm super excited about jogging or running or whatever, but then the next day I'm not motivated. So develop good habits that will work for you whether you're motivated or not. I'm sure we've all experienced that. Pesh says, I have about another 40 pounds to go. Don't worry, Pesh, you're going to do it. Just stick with it. I see no reason why I can't reach that goal. I flipped that switch. Yeah, the switch, I think what you're talking about is that mindset course. That's where I talk about flipping that switch. I have a lot of patients, for those of you who don't know, I have a lot of patients that are like, every time I ask them, are you trying to quit smoking? Yeah, doc, I'm trying to quit. And or did you lose weight? Yeah, doc, I'm trying to lose weight. And they're not serious. And I can tell, obviously I've been doing this a really long time. I can read people. But once a patient says to me, doc, that's it, I want to lose weight, tell me what to do. And then sometimes that flip switches on their own. I see them 6 months later. I'm like, whoa, what happened to you? You used to be 320 and now you're 260. What'd you do? And they're like, doc, I just made up my mind. I decided I'm just going to lose weight. So yeah, you got to flip that switch. Once that flip is switched, the rest is easy. Myself personally, I didn't even know I could lose 50 pounds, but I did. I think I was like 193, 195, and I got down to 145 or maybe like 147. And I didn't even think I was really that big, but I guess I was like on the border of obesity and overweightness. Pesh says, I see no reason why I can't reach that goal. Okay, yeah, we read that one. I went down some, but not enough, she said. Yeah, I'm thinking you mean your cholesterol. The cholesterol is really hard to get down with lifestyle and exercise. But definitely try it at first. We usually give people 2 or 3 months to try, but if you cut out saturated fat, it's going to be faster. Saturated fat are fats that are solid at room temperature. Butter, bacon, cheese, lard, chicken skins, fat on steak, coconut oil, even though it's not an oil, it's more like a butter. But any fat that's solid at room temperature will increase your LDL, your bad cholesterol. Pesh says, so true about the non-scale wins. Yeah, non-scale wins are huge. Like a lot of times you notice your clothes fitting better, but you're not losing that much more weight. You still weigh, let's say, like 200 pounds, but you went down another size in your belt buckle. You don't see as much abdominal distension. You have more energy. You feel better. Those are non-scale wins. Other non-scale wins are like, I can go up the stairs now and I don't have to stop and take a break. I can walk my kids all the way out to the front by the bus stop. I can play soccer with my kids and shoot some basketball. Those are all non-scale wins. But the other thing that I will caution people is that the scale doesn't generally lie. At the end of the day, the way to know if you're losing weight is to look at the scale. But don't let the scale define you. Don't let the scale be the thing that like makes you happy or makes you unhappy. Like if you see the scale one morning and it's up, don't freak out. It's just one morning. You could have had more salt or soy sauce the night before. So Zane says, hello, Zane. Diane says, olive oil. Yeah, olive oil is great. Any liquid oil, all oils contain some saturated fat. Any fats you purchase have some saturated, some unsaturated, polyunsaturated, monounsaturated. It's just the ratios that decide how thick or like how solid it is at room temperature. Ones that have more saturated fat are going to be more solid at room temperature. So yeah, any of those liquid oils are fine. I actually did a YouTube video about seed oils. Some people like to say, well, all those vegetable oils are so processed, and seed oils like grapeseed and canola and safflower and sunflower and peanut oil, like all these seed oils are so bad for you. I did a whole video on that. They do not cause inflammation. They actually lower cardiovascular risk. We have 32 years of research on these now, and they actually improve everything. Pesh says, true about saturated fats, but how do you say no to ribeye? I don't, but I don't eat ribeye every day. I love ribeye and I love making hamburgers, but there are things you can do, like hamburger, for example. You can mix it. You could buy the leaner beef. It's not going to be as good of a burger. You could buy leaner beef or mix in with it ground turkey. No one will know the difference, but definitely enjoy your ribeye if it makes you happy, just every once in a while. It depends on your cholesterol situation. Diane says, I saw it. I'm assuming it was that video. So I'll move on to one of the posted questions from before. And if you guys have live ones, go ahead and type them in. I've been doing keto. I lost 12 to 13 pounds in the first 2 months, but no longer losing. I've been at a plateau for 3 months. So here's the thing. Keto also, similarly, like what we said, you're going to lose weight initially because keto is a diet where you cut out carbs. you basically eliminate all your carbs. For most Americans, that's like 55 up to 65% of your calories. So when you take away 50 to 60% of your calories, that's a huge calorie deficit. Most of the time when we tell people a severe deficit, we're usually talking like a 25 to 30% reduction in calories. So you've reduced your calories way more. That's a severe reduction. So you're going to lose a lot of weight. But then what happens? You're like, okay, so I can't eat this. I can't eat that. I'm going to eat more fat. I'm going to eat more protein. I'm going to eat more of this. Your body starts sending, increasing the hunger signals and quashing the satiety signaling. And you start slowly increasing calories back. You start adding back more fat or more protein or more ribeye or burgers, whatever it was you liked, and your weight comes back. There's actually a good book by George Blackburn called Breaking Through Your Set Point. He talks about every human has a set point. The body knows it wants to be, let's say, 200 pounds. If you lose too much weight below that or above that, it will do all the stuff to get you back. They did something, I believe back in the 60s, he talks about it too. It's called the Vermont prison experiment. Thankfully, we're not allowed to experiment on inmates anymore, but back then they could. So what they did is they took half the inmates and they overfed them for 6 months and underfed the other half for 6 months. The half that lost weight was the underfed half. The other half gained weight. And then they just kind of left them alone. They said, okay, we're done with our experiment. Just go do what you want. So they all got back to their starting weight within months. So there are these protective mechanisms, and we've seen it too in people who yo-yo diet. They'll lose a bunch of weight, then gain it back without even really noticing. But they've done studies on people who yo-yo diet. When you diet down, your body sends out signals and things to make it so that your next attempt, so that you can regain weight faster, to put it back on, and that your next attempt at weight loss is less successful. So when you diet down and get to whatever weight you want, your body is going to be like, okay, we need to gain some back. And then it makes it harder for you to lose it the second time. Vicky says, I had a stent in October. I can still do strength training. Are there any restrictions? I'm assuming you mean like a cardiac stent. So no, you definitely, they actually did you do the cardiac rehab? Vicky, you can post that in there, but there was a study done. Most people, after they get a stent, qualify for cardiac rehab. They actually did a study on adding strength training to cardiac rehab, and they found that the adherence and the body composition changed. They still stuck with the cardiac rehab program. Not as many people dropped out. Like, they thought if we add strength training, maybe people will drop out of the program. They didn't. People stuck with the program and there wasn't as much dropout, but their functional ability improved. They're able to lift more, walk further, get out of a chair, all that kind of stuff. Those are like non-scale wins too. But they could do more. So yeah, Michelle, or I'm sorry, was that Vicky? Yeah, Vicky, you can definitely add strength training and do that. Find a local person in Georgia that can do strength training and tell them, hey, I'm a female. I want to lift some weights and let's do it. All right. Next question is by Mitchell. He says, hi, doc, 63-year-old, and I've been on simvastatin for about 20 years. I'm hearing conflicting information about the safety of statins. Curious to hear your opinion. Thanks. So statins have been around for a very, very long time. As you've noticed, you've been on one for 20 years. I think back in the 80s when the first one was discovered, and I always tell my patients, almost all cardiac medications are something from nature, like aspirin, for example. Aspirin comes from the bark of a willow tree. It's a substance that we call salicylic acid, and it's actually oil of wintergreen. So definitely, like lisinopril, for example, it's a blood pressure medication that we put a lot of people on. Lisinopril comes from viper venom. Digoxin comes from the foxglove plant. Coumadin comes from sweet clover. Statins come from red yeast rice. The very first statin was discovered from that. They noticed that people that would eat this their cholesterols would go down tremendously, and heart attacks and stroke rates would go down tremendously. So red yeast rice, definitely, it contains lovastatin. We've since taken all these molecules, we can't inject people with viper venom, but we found the molecule, we made it stable, and we found ways of creating it into a pill. Same thing with red yeast rice, sweet clover, all that stuff. So definitely that helps. The number needed to treat for Mitchell, when we analyze drugs to see how effective they are, whether we should put them out to market or not, or whatever, we look at something called the number needed to treat. So the number needed to treat is for every X number of people we put on this medication, how many lives do we save? So for statins, it's actually really low. It's 41. So for every 41 people we put on a statin, you save one life. Most other drugs are like 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, some are even in the 20,000 range. But statins have one of the lowest numbers needed to treat. So we know it's an excellent medication. A lot of the neurological stuff that people talk about, like dementia, forgetfulness, the Mayo Clinic actually went back and looked at 300,000 patients that were on statins to see if there was any neurocognitive decline. And they found that if they had neurocognitive decline, it was because they were older and they had neurocognitive decline. It wasn't due to the statin. So they dispelled that myth a long time ago. I hope that answers your question, Mitchell. If not, type a follow-up. Mega Vegan, do you encourage people to eat fermented foods? Fermented foods, it depends. Like most fruits and vegetables that you buy anywhere and eat are going to be somewhat fermented. If you're talking about like kombucha and yogurt with like live enzymes and all that kind of stuff, there's nothing wrong with it. A lot of people eat that and it's good for your gut health. You can also take a lot of those things in forms of like pills. They're not as bioavailable, but yeah, eating an apple or an orange or kombucha or whatever it is, that would be totally fine, Mega. Vicky says, my brother's a personal trainer. He will help me get started. Just didn't know if there's any. No, Vicky, not at all. Cardiac stents. The reason you get a cardiac stent is so that you can get back to living your life exactly the way that you left off, and even more. Like you should be able to do more, actually. 3-card Monty posted, I'm having traditional open heart surgery, need aortic valve replaced, need mitral valve stitched, need atrium clipped. What is your thought? If you need those things, 3-card, then just get it done. It's obviously a massive surgery, but most people with that surgery do very, very well. Obviously, I'm sure the surgeons doing it are highly qualified and know what they're doing. But yeah, definitely do that. The aortic valve, once you get that replaced, you are going to notice you're going to be able to do a whole lot more, walk further distance, do a lot more, all those kind of things that you didn't even realize. Mitchell says, yes, thanks for answering. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. I know there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet where people are like, oh, don't, medications, big pharma, whatever. I mean, these drugs are all generic. Big pharma is not making any money. We don't prescribe. We don't make any money. I mean, people think, oh, doctors are in bed with big pharma. We're not. I prescribe almost completely generic drugs unless there's some very, very compelling reason why this person should be on something that isn't. And there are some drugs like that. There are some things that are just not replaceable right now, but they'll be generic soon enough. 3-card says, problem originally started back in December with a 90/40 blood pressure. Yeah, so you're going to feel a lot better. 3-card. When is your surgery scheduled, by the way? We'll say some prayers for you. Hopefully everybody in here well as well. But definitely you're going to do well. You're going to do awesome. Try to not do as much now because an aortic valve that needs to be replaced can be very dangerous. So don't exert yourself now. Just kind of lay low until you get that surgery. Vicky says, I feel better. Awesome. 3-card says April 8th. All right, man. I hope you do really, really well. Keep us posted. I want to see you back on here sometime after April 8th. Comment, send me some stuff. Let me know how you did. I would love to help you. And make sure you do the cardiac rehab. You're going to feel beat up. You're going to feel like you got hit by a truck. You're going to feel exhausted. But it does get better, and you're going to feel like $1 million once you get out of there. So definitely get out there and do the cardiac rehab. Vicky just went through it, and she says she feels 1 million times better. Mitchell says, I'm taking 4 grams of omega-3 to increase HDL. So Mitchell, omega-3 doesn't generally raise HDL. Niacin does. There's only 2 things that raise HDL. One is niacin, which is a B vitamin. You can take it, but it takes a really, really long time to raise HDL. We won't know till after it's been like a year. So don't just like start taking niacin and then like 2 months later get the labs checked again. It takes about a year before we really, really know. And then be careful with the omega-3s, because if it has more DHA in it than EPA, it actually could increase your LDL. We used to, people thought fish oil were great. All this research out of Japan came on it, and it was awesome, and it, did all this great stuff, lowers your triglycerides, does this, does that. Well, we started giving it to people, and we noticed their LDL was going up. We actually even made a prescription medication called Lovaza from that, and it raised people's LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. And we realized that that's not good. So then they split it, and they did EPA by itself and DHA by itself. It turns out it was the DHA that was raising the LDL, but the EPA lowered it. And the EPA now is so good that they've actually turned that into a prescription medication called Vasipa. It lowers cardiovascular mortality, I believe, like 22%, and all-cause mortality. The chance of dying of anything goes down 29 or some odd percent as well. All right, let's go. Good luck, 3 card. Yeah, dude, good luck. I mean, it's a big surgery, but man, you got it. So no, Vicky didn't have an aortic valve replaced. She got a cardiac stent put in, which is different, obviously, but she did the cardiac rehab. She can tell you all about it. It's an exercise program to get your heart rate up and strengthen your heart after surgery or a stent. Mega says, as someone over 50 with low risk of heart disease, is a conventional lipid panel sufficient during annual exams, or should I ask my GP to add ApoB? So it kind of depends on your family history. If there's a lot of young heart attacks in your family, by young we mean like men under 40 and women under 50, then yeah, you probably should get it checked. But the treatment is not going to be any different. A normal lipid panel for you is probably going to be fine, assuming like you don't smoke or have hypertension, obesity, all that kind of stuff. But it's not going to add any more value unless you have a really bad family history. And those people generally have really high LDLs to begin with. So even if they just did a normal lipid panel, we'll know. Vicky says, medic quadruple bypass and just had cardiac stents will prepay for you. Oh, you're going to prepay for his surgery? I think you mean we're going to pray for you. Yeah, okay, so she actually had a bigger surgery than I thought, a quadruple bypass and a recent stent. So she must have had the quadruple bypass before and now just had a stent. So you can kind of tell them what the open heart surgery is like. I see these patients obviously all the time in the hospital right after surgery and then later on. But definitely the cardiac rehab is crucial. 3 card said, doctor, my surgeon said he may have to go with a mechanical valve for my aorta because I have hemochromatosis. Yeah, then that's probably a good idea. The nice thing about mechanical valves is they pretty much last forever. I don't know how old you are, but most bioprosthetic valves last 7 to maybe 15 years, kind of depending on the person, what your LDL is, all your other risk factors, if you keep smoking or not. I don't know if you smoke, but some people do. But if you have hemochromatosis and you're depositing, hemochromatosis, for the rest of the people don't know, you have really high iron levels and you don't get rid of iron, but it deposits in all your tissues. You can deposit in your liver, your muscles, your heart muscles. So that's kind of the problem. So, yeah, if you have hemochromatosis, you probably definitely want to go mechanical valve, and they'll put you on Coumadin, which is a blood thinner. Vicky says, pray. I meant, oh, yeah, we know you meant pray. 3 card says, thank you. Megan says, last LDL was 81. Oh, then you're all set, Megan, mega vegan. If your LDL is 81, you're totally fine. Does heart disease run in your family at all? Do you have like people young, 40s and 50s that have had heart attacks or less than that? I'll wait for that one. But Diane, in the meantime, says, what about blood clots at a young age in family with high cholesterol? So the blood clots are unrelated to the cholesterol. The high cholesterol is its own separate issue, and it depends on how high. There's a thing called familial, like family hypercholesterolemia, like genetic hypercholesterol. These people have like cholesterols in the 3, 4, 5, 600, and the highest one I've ever seen is 1,000. So that's unrelated. There's different ways of treating that. Blood clots at a young age could mean you have a clotting disorder, and there's different ways of treating that. You'd have to see a hematologist. There's a few very common clotting disorders, and a hematologist could easily fix that. 3 card says I'm 61. Yeah, you'll be fine. If you're a very functional 61 and you're super active, you'll do great. Diane says my dad had 400. Yeah, so 400 puts you into the range of probably having familial hypercholesterolemia. I did a whole video on that. I think it was called John's Cholesterol was 1,000. Search for that video. It's called John's cholesterol was 1,000 or something to that effect. But yeah, definitely you got to get that treated down. Diane, check your cholesterol and make sure that it's like 200 or below, somewhere in that range. It is found more commonly in males, the familial hyperlipidemia. So you may have been spared, but definitely get it checked. 3 card says, I never smoke or drink. Actually, my coronary arteries are totally clear. Okay, that's awesome. I lost 150 pounds on keto. Yeah, I think you told us that last time. My mother's side of the family, nobody lives past 64. My lipids are real good. My mom died at 54. I'm sorry to hear that, 3 card. Yeah, then it's just the valve, 3 card. Definitely get that valve taken care of as with the other, with the mitral. They're going to probably repair that, like you said, too. And they do atrial clipping mainly to remove that little pocket. There's a little pocket in your heart in the left atrium that collects clots. They usually take that off so that in the future, even if you have AFib, you don't actually need to be on blood thinners. But since you're having a valve, you're going to be on blood thinners anyways. Mega Vegan says, no, my father passed away at 82, but lived most of his latter years with cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. Yeah, so if he passed away at 82, that's the normal lifespan for a male. I believe is like 86. But if he has diabetes and type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease, then obviously that shortens it a little. But definitely, yeah, have your cholesterol looked at. But if you, like you said, your LDL is 81, you're probably totally fine. Let's see. Next question. Diane says, I haven't had any, but others did. Diane, your cholesterol is 280 with an LDL of 178. Okay, so Diane, that is really high. The LDL being 178 definitely puts you in the range of familial hyperlipidemia. You definitely need to probably take something. Almost no lifestyle intervention is going to help. And I told you the study that they did a really, really well done study. The biggest one took, I think, 5,000 people, had them run every day and completely cut out saturated fat. Still, their cholesterol only changed the vast majority by about 10%. And then the biggest a few people in the group, the best people in the group, it was like a 16% decrease. So for you, you'd drop it by 28 and 17, which is like still is a LDL of over 160 and a cholesterol of way over 200. So you're probably going to need to take a really high dose statin, probably Zetia, and maybe even something else. I don't know, but just start there. I don't know if you take anything, but you need to get on top of that. That's like a heart attack or stroke waiting to happen. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to scare you, but I care about people and I care about patients and I consider you a friend. So that's a really, really high cholesterol. Obviously, I'm not your doctor. Maybe they can refer you to a lipidologist or a cardiologist and just see what they do. 3 card says, I went from 321 pounds to 170. Now I'm about 182. I was in great shape last summer. This aortic and mitral problem just suddenly started a month after having a sore throat and fever for 2 days. Yeah, 3 card, you're still at a really good weight. I don't know how tall you are, but 182 is awesome, man. Just keep it up. Hopefully, like, a few months from now, you'll be looking back and be like, oh man, I kicked this aortic mitral valve thing. It's not a problem. You're gonna not even remember it. Diane says, okay. Mitchell says, gotta go, doc. Thanks for all your time and knowledge. No problem. Log in anytime. We try to do these like once or twice a month. 3 card says, no COVID antibodies on testing. Could my valves have been affected by streptococcus? Yeah, so when heart valves are affected by bacterial infections in your throat, we call that rheumatic heart disease, but most likely not. That takes like 40 to 50 years to develop. It wouldn't have just developed overnight or, within the last 6 weeks or 3 months, 4 months. It would take a long, long time. Diane says, I asked my doctor to see if I could lose more weight. No, she wanted to put me on something. Yeah, so Diane, I can almost guarantee you all the weight loss in the world is probably not going to bring that down enough. What is your current height and weight? I know you said you lost 27 pounds, but I don't know what your current height and weight is. The 3 card said 5'11". Okay, that's your height, but not Diane's. But anyways, I'll answer another question. Somebody else sent in one. I am insulin resistant. I only lose weight when I stop eating carbs. Is this okay? I know you say that eating carbs shouldn't be an issue, but this seems to work for me. Yeah, so I forget who posted this question, but you can eliminate carbs if you want. The only issue is it's really insulin resistance is no different than any other disease state. Whether you're insulin resistant or not, it really makes no difference when it comes to weight loss. In fact, almost all of the weight loss studies that have been done have actually been done on people who are insulin resistant. They're all type 2 diabetics. Half of them are type 2 diabetics. A huge amount of these people in the studies that are trying to lose weight are actually diabetic. There was actually a recent study done where they took people who are obese, like definitely qualified as obesity, and they had they had them all be on the same calorie diet, same number of calorie diet, like an isocaloric diet, same amount of protein, same amount of calories. They had one group eat almost no carbs, and the other group eat 60 to 70% carbs. And they found that there was no difference in the amount of weight that they lost, even between the two groups, whether they were diabetic, insulin resistant, or not. So it really should make no difference, but it's an eating preference. If you don't want to eat carbs and you feel like that helps you adhere better, that's totally, totally fine. But if you have like really high cholesterol, like some of these numbers we're talking about, like with Diane, with an LDL of 178, you probably don't want to do a ketogenic style diet because you're eating tons and tons of fat, and that's just going to really crank up your cholesterol tremendously. And if you have heart disease, you definitely don't want to do that. Like if you already had the open heart, already have stents, already have, heart disease and cholesterol and those kind of problems, you definitely don't want to be doing that. Diane says I'm 5'3", 168. Okay, so Diane, like you're pretty close to your ideal body weight. I don't, for a 5'3" female, I don't know what you want to weigh. You can decide that on your own, but you're not like a 280-pound person or 240-pound person. You're under 200. You're in the 160s. I don't know what you want to get to, but let's say you wanted to be 97 pounds. I can almost guarantee you that cholesterol is not going to change all that much. But let's say you get to 140 or 150, whatever it is, still not going to be a huge, huge difference. So Diane says, I have 20 to 25 pounds to lose yet. However, I had high cholesterol when I was 29 and had lower weight. Yeah, like I said, Diane, this is genetic. If this has been going on since 29, you have familial hyperlipidemia or hypercholesterolemia, and I'm highly encouraging you, because I really, really care, to get that treated as soon as possible. You have all those years of not being treated, and it's building up plaque, so definitely get on top of that. 3 cards and my lipids all turned around when I went to healthy keto. I don't eat tons of fat. My cholesterol is 171, LDL 100, HDL 62, triglycerides 46, VLDL 9. Before keto, I was way over 200. Yeah, so that's awesome. 3 card. Definitely some people that are close to their numbers with a lot of weight loss, and depending on your genetics, it can definitely help. The best people in the studies, like I said, usually about a 16% drop in their cholesterols. I'll answer another question that was sent to me earlier, unless somebody wants to post one. Somebody goes, I want to start lifting weights. Where do I start? I used to do light dumbbells in the past, but I know you always stress compound movements. Okay, yeah, so definitely compound movements are, and I'll post a link in here real quick. Exercise. So go to drallo.net/exercise. I have my entire exercise program. You just type in your email and you can download it. But compound movements are the best way to start. First of all, it's like a full body program. And second of all, you can just do it once a week. Just start with something simple. Why do 5 days a week of working out if one single day is enough to elicit the response that we want? So I always tell people, do the least amount you can to elicit the response you want. So if that's just one day a week, great. Do that until it's not working anymore. Then you can go to 2 days or whatever it is. So I highly, highly recommend doing that. I forgot who posted that question. I don't have the name there. But if you're on here, feel free to post a follow-up. I'll check the email one last time, see if anybody has sent anything else in. Okay, nothing on the email currently. All right, 3 card goes. For instance, tonight I ate a tuna fish salad with avocado mayo, small sweet potato, keto chocolate, water. I only drink water or decaf green tea. You can call me Monty. Oh, sorry, Monty. Yeah, that is great. And then you can eat whatever you want and whatever fits your tastes. You want to do keto, you can do keto. You want to do whatever, but just make sure that the keto that you're doing, if you have heart disease, is not an outrageous amount of saturated fat. And then Razzle Dazzles says hi. Hi, Razzles. Razzles is my daughter. Any other questions before we shut down for tonight? Let me check the other email. I do get some in another message. Let me check another email real quick. Okay, I see no further questions here. Let me get back to the YouTube. Where were we? Oh man, I can't find the browser window anymore. That's funny. Hold on, let me make this bigger and find it. Oh, here we go. All right. So does anybody have any... I don't eat tons of lard or fat or bacon. Okay, good. Yeah, so the biggest things are saturated fats. These are fats that are solid at room temperature. You kind of named some of them: lard, butter, bacon, cheese, chicken skin, fat on steak, turkey skin, those kind of things. I know. Okay, Razzle Dazzles. Hey, Razzle. Is weight training better or cardio? So you need both, especially you, since you play sports. You need to be cardiovascular endurance because you're a soccer athlete. You need to be able to run around nonstop for 90 minutes, which you can do because you play soccer. And then the weight training is beneficial because it'll make your kicks stronger. It'll make your running faster. It'll make your heading the ball safer. It'll make you like taking a shoulder check easier and better. No one will knock you down. All of that will help. I always tell patients strength translates into everything. So no matter what you do, strength training definitely helps. So always strength train because it translates into every part of everything. I mean, like I said, most of my patients, even just to lift something up and put it in a cupboard is not that easy for them, or getting out of a chair, or, moving with their walker, all that kind of stuff. Is very, very difficult. But if you strength train and get stronger at it, then all of that stuff suddenly becomes pretty easy. So thank you for the questions. Does anybody have any final questions before we sign off for tonight? These are really, really good questions, by the way. I do eat eggs, avocados, broccoli, cauliflower, celery, artichokes, olives, some sweet potatoes. I don't eat cheese at all. It binds me up and it's loaded with sodium. Yeah, definitely, Monty. Sounds like you're eating super healthy stuff. I eat pretty much what you just said. In the morning, I eat 2 eggs, usually with some toast. Sometimes I put avocado and salmon on it too. All the veggies you mentioned, I love. I do eat cheese. Not a lot, just, I don't know, it's not like a thing. It's also like high in calories, so I try to find ways to avoid it. What is this? Something got posted in my thing here. Anyways, Vicky goes, thank you, Dr. Allo. Say hello to your family. Stay blessed. See you in the next live. Yep. Thanks, Vicky. Thanks for coming on. You're like the only person that's been on every single one of them. You and Monty. Pesh as well. A few others are always on. Razzle Dazzles. All right, you're welcome, Diane. Anytime. Feel free to keep responding to those emails. There's tons of stuff on there. You're getting tons and tons of resources and links to other videos and whatnot. Definitely keep clicking on those. And if you have questions, just click respond. Super easy. I answer all my emails myself. Monty says, I don't need any refined starches like bread, rice, potatoes, and pasta. Yeah, and that is totally fine, Monty. I tell people that you can definitely eat the foods that you enjoy. And that's actually what I recommend to all my patients. I tell them, listen, like Monty, if you were my patient and you asked me, Dr. Allo, what's the best diet? I would say, listen, Monty, the best diet for weight loss is called the Monty diet. It is what Monty likes to eat. It's what Monty's been eating for the last 20 to 30 years, because that's most likely what Monty's going to eat for the next 20 to 30 years. You just have to eat a little bit less, or maybe a lot less, of the things you already enjoy, because that has been shown in studies to cause the most adherence. When you're eating things you enjoy, you're more likely to stick to it long term. Razzle Dazzle says somebody donated. Oh, is that what that was? It says $5. I'm trying to understand. Julian, Your book came today, going to get started. We'll post a review. Oh, Julian. Okay, now I understand it. Yeah, so Julian, I hope you love the book. And definitely, yeah, post a review. And Julian, listen, if you go to drallo.net/free and sign up in the thing there, you actually get access to the audiobook, the PDF version, tons and tons of other resources. You get access to my mindset course. I believe somebody up here earlier posted a quote from one of my mindset videos. I think it was Pesh. She said, oh man, let me remember. I totally triggered my mind about that. Pesh, I forgot what you wrote, but maybe maybe it was the non-scale wins. Oh no, flip the switch. That's what it was. She talked about flipping the switch. Yeah, in the mindset course, I think Diane took it too, but the mindset course, the number one thing, or like one of the things that's super important, is you have to flip that switch, whether it's you're quitting smoking or starting a bike riding group or a weight loss group, or whatever it is, you have to flip that switch. So thank you, Julian. I super appreciate it. Oh, and Vicky too. Thank you. I'm not asking for donations, but apparently you can donate $5. I didn't even know this. Well, thank you guys for the donations. Vicky, go on drallo.net/free and grab the free book and the free resources. I think you'll really like them. There's a ton of stuff on there. All right, yeah, Monty, definitely before you go, and I don't know if you're still on here, but definitely give us updates. We want to know how you're doing. The aortic valve with the mitral valve and the left atrial appendage clipping. It's a big surgery, but I have no doubt, based on the healthy stuff you've been doing and your healthy lifestyle, that you're going to do awesome, man. So we're all praying for you, and hopefully you'll do really, really well. Any further questions? Yeah, so top chat, we've got, I didn't even know we had such a feature on here. Julian and Vicky, the top chatters. All right, so anyone else have questions before we run? Will do. Can't wait to read this book. Prayers, Monty. Yeah, we're all praying for you, my man. Anybody else got any questions? Going once. All right, well, I'll catch you guys in the next live. Probably won't be next week, but maybe 2 weeks from now. And maybe we'll do one towards the middle of April so we can hear back from Monty. Definitely need to know how Monty's doing. So maybe like April 20th, that'll give you enough time to recover and be awake and hopefully do really well. Thanks, Razzle. You're very, very thoughtful. All right, guys, we'll call it a night. Thank you all for being on board. And if you have any questions, you can reply to my emails or even just post under this video or in the community section of YouTube, wherever you want. That's where I've been grabbing most of these questions. All right. Take care, anyone. Yeah, Vicky, definitely give me feedback on the book. Would love that. Appreciate it. All right. Take care, everyone. Good night.